We'd had enough. Had enough. Had enough. We had came and said, "The war is over. You're safe now." And I was grinning. And you're crying.
Well, you read your history books, yeah, but then this was different because it was the year, in the First World War, they didn't have the planes with the bomb, and but it was going to be a different type of war.
I lived beside the Citadel,
Uh-huh.
in the Citadel building in Jersey Street, and it was bombing around us. There was a bomb at the bottom of the street and nearly knocked us out, that sort of thing. And out the factories towards the beach, they were bombed. My sister, she worked in the munitions, and she was blown under the horse. She came round with the horse's teeth up there.
Wow.
It
was very frightening. And we used to look at the sky, look at the sky to see if there were any planes flying over, because we thought, if the planes fly over, they'll drop bombs on us.
You never know when it was going to happen, you know. And you had, with these, what they call the budge bombs, you know, the thing that flew over. And they just ran. And then it stopped above Glasgow, and that's it. It just dropped. And you never knew where it was going till it hit. You know, so we had that, so we had all that kind of stuff happening the whole time.
Always amazed me that these bombs fell at night, never fell during the day, and we never got a day off the school, never get sent home.
We went to school and that, but you had to carry your gas mask. You were measured for a gas mask, and you went to school with your gas mask over your shoulder. And then you come home at night to do your homework. And as soon as you got into bed, the siren went off away down to the shelter in the back green.
Wearing gas masks, how did that feel?
Oh, that was funny, you know, being part of your thing going out. And I always thought cardboard boxes were so funny. But Angus, he was born during the war, and it was one of the carry ones, you know, they called them Mickey Mouse. And they were quite a handful, but everyone else had the gas mask.
Was it frightening wearing gas masks to have them actually on your face?
Yes, I suppose it would be, but we never actually needed to use them as such. We knew how to put them on and off, but we never really had to use them. We're very fortunate.
Instead of studying, we were handing out blankets, and then people that didn't have beds for the children, they were getting allocated to.
And the children, they were really brave. Eventually they took it and they would fall asleep in the shelter.
What was your normal day like in war times?
After school, sit outside into the park and play.
You had a ball, you were lucky.
You got a ball. There's always one with a ball.
Were you scared to go out and play back then, though?
No, you didn't
realise
you didn't realise the situation with it, how bad it was.
Not fully.
You knew that was the siren, and you knew there was planes and bombs dropping. I remember the tackety boots running. The men that, I think it was the ARP they called them, helping people into the shelters. You know, it was mainly women. The men were all away in the forces, and everybody had to help.
It's kind of frightening, you know.
It was.
Sometimes people didn't have a shelter,
we had to go into somebody's house, you know. But I had a good time laughing and that. We never gave it a thought, you know.
Well, everything was in a hurry.
Yeah.
You know, you had to rush, and we had these wee siren suits,
Yeah.
and you just get put in that with your night clothes on into the suit, the zip went up, and everybody just helped into the shelters. Sometimes you had time to take
That's
maybe a bottle of milk and
Mm-hmm.
a loaf of bread, you know, and you made a sandwich, but not always, you didn't have the time.
And you never knew the minute that was going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
You know, everybody was doing the same. We were running to shelters, or in my case, where we were, we couldn't get a shelter. They were in a garage right opposite us, but nobody would get it because it was a garage, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up in wee lay-bys, you know, like modern houses had a place to keep prams and bikes and all that kind of stuff outside. Well, ours had that kind of background to it, and it meant that everybody had a mattress in it, because you had one for each house in the building. So everybody had a mattress in it, and you were there every night. I mean, every night. It wasn't a time went by you didn't get bombed.
The things that drop sailors, the planes would go over and the droning and everything, but you were either under the table, or if you had a shelter, the Anderson shelters, but that was only if you had the money to pay for them, or if you had a garden. So everyone else was, if you're downstairs, they went underneath the stairs, or everybody had a big heavy table, something like that.
Early days, you didn't think about the war. We weren't involved in it somehow, you know. We're on an island, so
Was it hard being on an island during the war, like ration-wise?
yeah, so it was always rationed there, always rationed. Everything come in by boat or plane. Yeah, that's the way it always was, right enough.
I always had to take a book to the grocer when I had to get any messages from my mother. You know, if I wanted a bit of cheese, or if she wanted a bit of cheese, rather, and I had to take a book with me for
That's right, the ration goods. I
for
forgot
sugar.
all about
Well,
that.
there's a ration book. That was in my mother's, I don't know why I've ended with it.
That's
Yes.
We suffered poverty, and we knew how to share one with another. We got your rations, and we never took sugar because my dad was diabetic. So we would exchange a sugar ration with people next door. They would give us their butter ration. You learned to share what you had, just to make the most of what the bits or pieces that you had.
It's horrible to say so, but the niceness that was in the war, everyone, you only lived for the day eventually. We were famous for our lace weaving, and that's what I did during the war, making netting, of course.
During that time, during the war, we had to take in Air Force men. Our school was closed for a whole year, Hanover Street School, with airmen training to be pilots. Or my mother had to take 4 of them. And they didn't, you didn't get asked, he knocked the door and he come in and he had 4 beds. And my mother says, but I haven't room for that, I have only 2 rooms. He says, I will make room, don't you worry.
And they were just full of fun. But it was fear. They didn't know where they were going.
No.
And then obviously they didn't know if they were coming back. And that used to be, you would hear people saying, I wonder how many will come back.
That's right.
They didn't know what was going on. And it wasn't until after the war, all the stories that came out about how bad it was. And then you saw pictures, photographs, films.
That's right.
I just cannot believe that anybody could be so cruel.
Oh,
I just can't believe that can happen.
People suffered for them. Train loads would come back to Greenock with soldiers, and they had no family left. Their family had been wiped out in the Blitz. No home to come to, just an empty shell.
If I had gone to the country with the evacuees, I would have been, like my mother said, we stay in Glasgow, we all die together as a family. Oh, how dramatic is that?
I know.
We all die as a family. Oh, the screaming and the children crying and that, it was so eerie. But like everything else in life, we get used to it and it's a matter of fact.
War was over and everybody was desperate for the war over. I mean, it sounds a wonderful interest, but it was terrifying. Well, we were all terrified.
I was at home and we were told war was over, so we all went out to party in the street and great jollifications and carry on.
I'll be quite honest, I don't remember anything.
Do you not even remember VE Day?
No,
No.
no.
It was happiness that it was all over. We were looking forward that was it over. But it didn't really go back to the way it was. You still had rationing for a couple of years.
It was over, but there was still a lot to be done. There was still a lot of things that needed to change.
I don't see any reason why you don't talk about it. It may prevent another war, but there won't be another war because they'll just drop the bombs and it'll just be disintegrated and that's it. And there's not going to be the same way that there was in the Second World War.
I think as long as you people able to associate themselves in some way with the war, then you should people be thankful for it, even though they don't know them, you know.
What about you, Morris? What do you think? Do you think we should always commemorate the war?
No, I don't.
No? Why?
It's gone. It's gone.
I like to move on. I don't go back to the past. I live for the future.